I always thought sunsets looked different from his balcony, wider somehow, as if the sky stretched itself just to impress him. Maybe that should have been my first warning sign. But back then, I didn't read into things. Back then, Owen was just my friend. My closest friend, sure, but still filed neatly under safe, known, platonic. The evening began like any other, me kicking off my shoes the moment I stepped inside, Owen laughing as one bounced off the wall, the city humming far below us. He handed me a mug of tea he'd brewed exactly the way I liked it, too sweet, too floral, and I teased him for remembering. He teased me for underestimating him. It was our ritual. Gentle. Familiar. But something in the air felt charged. The kind of static that usually happens before a thunderstorm. Except the sky was perfectly clear. "Long day?" he asked, leaning against the counter. "You have no idea," I sighed, sinking into his couch. "My boss thinks deadlines multiply like rabbits." He grinned, but there was an odd softness in it. "You look tired." That tenderness, it made my heartbeat stumble. Strange. Irrational. I ignored it. I always ignored it. He joined me on the couch, sitting a little closer than usual. Not enough to alarm me. Just enough to make me aware of the warmth radiating from him. He smelled faintly of cedar and the lemon detergent he used on his shirts. I told myself it was the same as always. That I wasn't noticing anything new. But I was. God, I was. He told me about his day, something about a coworker who microwaved fish again, and I laughed too loudly because I needed the sound to drown out the sudden flutter in my stomach. When my laughing faded, the silence that replaced it felt heavier than it should have been. His eyes lingered on me. Not in a way that crossed a line. In a way that suggested he was thinking about a line. "You've got something," he said quietly. His fingers brushed the side of my face, just a soft, tentative sweep to tuck a loose strand of hair behind my ear. I froze. I think he did too. His hand lingered a second too long. My breath lodged in my throat, and it felt like the room narrowed, shrinking until there was nothing but the warmth of his fingers and the sudden awareness that I didn't want him to pull away. But he did. Slowly. Like it cost him something. I laughed again, but this time it came out thin and crooked. Thanks." He didn't smile. He just watched me, eyes darker than I'd ever seen them, as if he were holding back words I wasn't supposed to hear. I looked away first. Cowardly, maybe. Safe, definitely. "Wanna watch something?" I managed. "Sure." But his voice had that same charged undercurrent, and it made my pulse skip. We sat there, shoulders brushing occasionally, too casually, too deliberately accidental. My chest tightened each time. And then, halfway through the movie, I felt his gaze on me again. Heavy. Searching. When I turned to him, he didn't look away this time. Neither did I. The air shifted. Or maybe I did. Because in that moment, something in me whispered a truth I didn't want to hear. Maybe he wasn't just my friend. The thought terrified me. But the way he looked at me right then, steady, unguarded, wanting, terrified me even more. I told myself to focus on the movie, but the images on the screen were a blur. All I could feel was his presence beside me, warm, steady, unbearably close. I didn't want to acknowledge the shift between us, but it pulsed in the room like a second heartbeat. Mine or his, I couldn't tell. The soundtrack swelled, some dramatic orchestral moment, and I pretended that was the reason I exhaled too sharply. Owen's shoulder brushed mine again, deliberately this time. Not enough to be obvious. Just enough to ask a silent question. I didn't move away. I didn't breathe either. He shifted, turning slightly toward me. "You're quiet tonight." "I'm watching," I whispered. Except I wasn't. We both knew it. His eyes held mine longer than they should have. They always had a kind warmth, but tonight there was a heat under it, something real, something that made my stomach twist in a way friendship never had. I tore my gaze away, hoping it would help. It didn't. My pulse was loud in my ears, loud enough that I barely noticed when Owen spoke again, softer this time. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine." Too fast. Too light. Too obvious. He leaned back slightly, studying me as if searching for the truth across my face. And for one suspended second, I realized I wanted him to find it. The thought rattled me so hard I stood up abruptly. Tea. I need more tea. Your mug's still half full, he said gently. Then I'll top it up. It was a terrible excuse. I knew it. He knew it. But he let me flee to the kitchen anyway. I gripped the counter, trying to steady my breathing. My reflection in the microwave door looked flushed, startled, as if something had cracked open inside me and light was pouring through the fracture. He's your friend. The mantra felt flimsy now, fragile as tissue paper. I heard his footsteps approach before I saw him. Slow, careful, like he didn't want to startle me. I kept my eyes fixed on the kettle even though it wasn't on. You don't have to pretend with me, he said quietly. That nearly undid me. I closed my eyes. I'm not pretending. He exhaled, a soft, warm sound. You're shaking. I hadn't realized it until his hand brushed mine on the counter, featherlight, tentative, ready to retreat if I flinched. I didn't. Owen, my voice wavered. We're friends. I know. His fingers curled slightly, not gripping, just resting against mine. A choice. An invitation. Then this, my breath hitched. Whatever this is, it shouldn't happen. He didn't respond immediately. When he finally spoke, his voice was low enough to tremble through me. What if it already is? I opened my eyes. He was standing so close I could see the flecks of gold in his irises, the faint rise and fall of his breathing. Everything in me went tense, then liquid, all at once. Owen, I whispered, but I didn't know what came after that. His gaze dropped to my lips. Just for a heartbeat. Just long enough to send a bolt of panic and something dangerously like longing through me. Every rational thought tried to drag me backward. Every instinct pulled me forward. He must have seen the conflict in my eyes, because he stepped back slightly, an inch, no more, but enough that the absence of his warmth felt like cold water. I don't want to push you, he murmured. I need you to know that something's changed for me. My chest clenched. When? A while ago. His voice cracked with a softness I'd never heard from him. I tried not to let it show. I swallowed hard. You didn't. A half smile. Sad. Knowing. I think I am now. I couldn't move. Couldn't think. The room felt too small for the thundering inside me. Then the kettle clicked, though I hadn't turned it on. A phantom sound. Or maybe just my imagination begging for an escape. Owen took a slow breath, searching my face. If this scares you, tell me to stop. I didn't. I couldn't. And that was the moment I realized I was standing on the edge of something I'd never expected, something I wasn't sure I was ready for. But even fear didn't stop the truth from forming, terrifying and undeniable. I didn't want him to step any farther away. I didn't know how long we stood there, suspended between what we'd always been and what we were seconds from becoming. The kitchen lights hummed softly, flickering across the stainless steel appliances, and I focused on that, anything to ground myself. But Owen's presence pressed against the edges of every thought, warm and patient and terrifyingly real. He was still just an arm's length away. Yet, somehow it felt like I'd never been closer to him. I'm not trying to confuse you, he said, voice steady in that quiet way of his. I just couldn't keep pretending I didn't feel it anymore. His words landed with the weight of something irreversible. My heart thudded hard, too hard, and I wrapped my arms around myself as if that would hold me together. You don't understand, I whispered. If we cross this line, if anything goes wrong, I lose you. He flinched barely. You won't. You don't know that. I forced myself to meet his eyes. You mean too much to me. I can't risk ruining us. A muscle in his jaw tightened, not with frustration, but with something like hurt. He nodded slowly, as if he'd expected that answer, but hoped to be wrong. I get that, he murmured. I really do. He looked down at his hands, then back at me with an honesty so open it almost hurt to look at. But we can't pretend nothing's happening. Not anymore. I felt it too, that spark, that pull, that shift in the air that had been building for weeks, maybe months. But wanting something didn't make it safe. He took a breath, stepped closer, not touching, just close enough that I felt the warmth of him graze my skin. I won't move unless you tell me to. Not an inch. But I need to know something. My throat tightened. What? His gaze dipped again, not at my lips this time, but at my trembling hands. "Do you feel anything for me?" "Even a little." My pulse thudded so loudly I swore he could hear it. He wasn't asking for a confession. He was asking for a lifeline. I opened my mouth to answer, but the truth tangled with fear. "I don't know," I whispered, because it felt safer than admitting the truth that was already burning through me. He searched my face, reading everything I was too afraid to say. I could see the moment the smallest flicker of hope softened his expression. "You do," he said softly. "Even if you're scared to admit it." Heat rushed to my cheeks. "You're so sure of yourself." "No," he shook his head. "I'm sure of you." The room tilted a little. I felt exposed, cracked open, like he'd peeled back the layers I'd been hiding beneath without even trying. He reached up slowly, giving me every chance to pull away. His fingers brushed a tear from my cheek. I hadn't realized one had fallen, and the gentleness of it nearly undid me. "Talk to me," he whispered. "I don't want to lose you," I breathed. "You won't." He said it with such quiet certainty it made something deep inside me tremble. "I'm right here." His hand lingered at my cheek, warm, careful, patient. My breath caught, tangled, unfurled all at once. I leaned into his touch before I could stop myself. That was all he needed. His other hand rose to cup the side of my face. Not claiming. Not demanding. Just holding. As if I was something fragile he'd waited years to touch. "Owen," my voice shook. "Tell me to stop," he whispered again. But I didn't. I couldn't. Every part of me leaned forward, every fear, every longing, every unspoken truth. The space between us thinned until it felt like one breath could collapse it entirely. And then, slowly, like he was giving me time to change my mind, he lowered his forehead to mine. Our breaths mingled, soft and uneven. My eyes fluttered closed without my permission. He was so close I could feel the tremble in his breath. So close I knew exactly what would happen if either of us moved another inch. The world went quiet, electric, waiting. And I realized with a sharp, dizzy certainty that the line I'd been terrified of crossing. I'd already stepped over it. His forehead rested against mine, and for a moment neither of us breathed. The closeness was unbearable, too intimate, too honest. I could feel the heat of him, the quiet tremor beneath his calm exterior. My heart hammered so loudly I was sure he could hear it. I should have stepped back. I should have said something rational. Instead, I stayed perfectly still, suspended in the fragile space between wanting and fearing what came next. "Owen," I whispered, though the word held no meaning anymore. It was just breath, just trembling. His thumb brushed my cheek, slow and reverent. "I don't want to scare you." "You're not," I lied. He exhaled, and the warm ghost of it grazed my lips. My knees weakened. We'd never been this close, never even flirted, not really, and yet somehow this felt inevitable, like we had been walking toward this exact moment in tiny, oblivious steps. "We can stop," he murmured. "Just say the word." But I didn't. My silence stretched between us like an answer. His fingers threaded gently into my hair, and every nerve in my body lit up. I could feel him leaning in, not pulling me, not claiming me, just offering, just waiting. And the knowing of it, the tenderness of it, made my breath catch in my throat. I lifted my chin the slightest bit. A movement so small it could have been a flinch. Or permission. He noticed. Of course he noticed. His breath stuttered, quiet, shaky, hopeful. "I'm going to kiss you," he whispered, voice barely audible. "Unless you stop me." I felt the world tilt, every fear crashing into every desire. My hands found the fabric of a shirt without me realizing, fingers curling into it like an anchor. He shuddered softly. That was my answer. My yes. My falling. He closed the final inch between us. The kiss wasn't rushed, wasn't explosive, it was slow, unbearably tender, as if he was learning the shape of something he dreamed about but never touched. His lips brushed mine once, lightly, questioningly. A single, soft spark. And, just like that, everything inside me broke open. A sound escaped me, small, involuntary, and Owen responded instantly, deepening the kiss with a sweetness that made my chest ache. His hand cupped the back of my neck, guiding me closer, but still careful, always careful, like he was afraid I'd vanish if he held too tightly. God, he tasted like warmth and cedar, and every quiet moment I'd ever shared with him without understanding what it meant. My heart was chaos. My thoughts dissolved into heat and trembling, and the realization that kissing him didn't feel strange at all. It felt like breathing after holding my lungs empty for years. When he finally pulled back, only a fraction, our lips still brushing, my knees nearly gave out. His forehead returned to mine, and he breathed my name like a question and an apology all at once. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I shouldn't have." "Don't," I breathed. "Don't apologize." His eyes opened, dark, searching, hopeful. "Are you okay?" "No," I said honestly, voice shaking. "You just turned my whole world upside down." A soft, startled laugh escaped him, full of relief and fear and something deeper. His thumb traced my jaw. "We don't have to figure anything out tonight." "I promise." But I already felt the shift, huge, irreversible, terrifying. The kiss had changed everything. We could never go back. And God, a part of me didn't want to. But another part, the cautious part, the part terrified of losing him, whispered a warning I couldn't ignore. "What happens now?" I asked, voice barely audible. He swallowed. "Whatever you want." I stared up at him, heart pounding, realizing I had no idea what I wanted, only that the thought of stepping away felt like ripping out a piece of myself. Yet staying. Staying meant facing the truth I had avoided for so long. Owen watched every flicker of emotion cross my face, silent, patient, waiting for me to breathe again. I wasn't ready. But I also wasn't ready to let go. "I need a minute," I whispered. He nodded, brushing his thumb across my cheek one last time before stepping back, the loss of his warmth hitting me like a sudden gust of cold. But he didn't go far. He stayed close. Close enough that the echo of his kiss followed me as I tried to steady myself. I stepped into the hallway, leaning my back against the wall as if the plaster could hold up what my legs suddenly couldn't. My lips still tingled. My heart still raced. My thoughts scattered like startled birds every time I tried to catch one. A minute. I'd said I needed a minute. But the truth was, a minute wasn't enough. Not after that. I pressed a hand to my chest, trying to steady the frantic rhythm beneath my ribs. I had kissed Owen. Or he had kissed me. Or we'd both fallen into it like a truth that had been waiting under the surface, patient and inevitable. I wasn't sure which terrified me more, that it had happened, or that I already missed the warmth of him. From the living room, I heard him shift his weight. Not pacing, not approaching, just waiting. The quiet, steady presence that had always grounded me. Except now it felt like something more. Something dangerous in its softness. I drew a shaky breath and finally walked back. He looked up immediately, concern etched across his features, hands loosely clasped in front of him like he wasn't sure what he was allowed to do anymore. "Hey," he said softly. That one word unraveled me. I sat beside him close, but not as close as before. The air between us felt different now, humming with awareness and the ghost of his mouth on mine. He didn't reach for me. He didn't crowd me. He just waited. I appreciated it more than he could possibly know. "I'm sorry if I pushed you," he murmured. "You didn't." My voice was steadier than I felt. I wasn't expecting any of this. Neither was I. A small, rueful smile tugged at his mouth. "Not tonight, at least." I glanced at him. "So you were expecting it?" He huffed a soft laugh. "I was hoping for it. Not expecting." The honesty of it made my breath catch. I looked down at my hands, twisting them in my lap. "Owen, everything feels like it shifted all at once. I don't know what to do with that." "You don't have to do anything," he said gently. "We take it slow. We talk. We figure it out together." Together. The word resonated through me like a promise I wasn't sure I deserved. "But what if we ruin everything?" I whispered. He reached out, hesitated, then took my hand, lacing our fingers with a careful, tentative slowness that made my chest ache. "Then we fix it," he said. "Like we always do." I exhaled shakily, staring at our intertwined fingers. His thumb brushed the back of my hand, warm and steady. "You're too calm about this," I murmured. No, I'm terrified. He laughed softly. But I'd rather risk everything than pretend I don't feel what I feel. My throat tightened. And what do you feel? He squeezed my hand. You already know. I looked up at him, and for the first time since the kiss, the fear eased enough for something else to surface. Something softer. Something real. Owen, I said quietly, I'm scared, but I don't want to pretend either. His breath caught. Yeah. I nodded. The relief that washed over his face was almost enough to undo me. He shifted closer slowly, giving me time to pull away. I didn't. His forehead brushed mine again, gentle, familiar now. My eyes slipped closed. This doesn't have to be complicated, he whispered. We start small. We take one day at a time. My heart softened. And if I freak out again? Then I'll sit with you until it passes. I let out a breath that felt like a release. He kissed my knuckles, a feather-light touch that made warmth bloom through me. Owen? Yeah. Will you stay close tonight? I asked. Not, I swallowed. Not like that. Just, don't go far. His smile was soft, almost disbelieving. I wasn't planning to. He leaned against me, shoulder to shoulder. I let my head rest lightly against his, feeling his warmth, his steadiness, the quiet promise in the space between us.